2 of those have yet to be confirmed in terms of source of venue, although those other 2 are people who live in the Northern Beaches. So whilst the numbers are higher today than yesterday, the one positive is we still have not seen evidence of massive seeding outside of the Northern Beaches community, and our aim, of course, is to keep that in place. Can I firstly thank everybody on the Northern Beaches for respecting and cooperating with the public health orders in relation to essentially a don't leave home unless you have to order, which is in place until midnight on Wednesday. We really appreciate the support of the Northern Beaches community, your patience, your understanding. And I also want to thank the community. We had more than 28,000 tests on a weekend in the last 24 hours, and that's positive. The more tests we have, the more confidence we have that the disease that we're able to identify where the disease is, where it's spreading and how we can control that spread. So can I please continue to encourage everybody, no matter where you live in New South Wales, if you have the mildest of symptoms, please come forward and get tested and isolate until you have the result. Can we also please give a shout out to anybody who resided in the Northern Beaches area after the 10th of December but may have already been in other parts of New South Wales. If you were a resident who may have left on the 12th or 13th of December and gone for a holiday in regional New South Wales or gone to other parts of Sydney, and you might actually still be outside the Northern Beaches, we want you to stay home and follow the same instructions as if you were living on the Northern Beaches. So if you're someone who resides in the Northern Beaches and had left the Northern Beaches after the 10th of December, we do ask that you stay at home, you monitor for symptoms and get tested and isolate until you get the results to make sure that we don't have those seeding events outside of the Northern Beaches community. In order to protect the rest of Sydney and the rest of New South Wales from any potential seeding events, which to date we've managed, can I please ask everybody to do the following. There'll be health orders today which will say that until the end of the lockdown period in the Northern Beaches, everybody in the Greater Sydney area, including the Central Coast and the Blue Mountains, we're asking you not to have more than 10 people in your home, in addition to whoever lives in your home, until midnight on Wednesday. Again, as a precaution, because we know that indoor settings in small areas actually exacerbate or accelerate the spread. So until Wednesday midnight, we're asking anybody in Greater Sydney, including the Central Coast and Blue Mountains, not to have more than 10 people come to your home at any one time. We're also going to put in a health order from tonight, which says for all hospitality venues, for all indoor venues, places of worship, can I say for all settings that went from 4 square metre rule to the 2 square metre rule, we're reverting back to the 4 square metre rule. So apart from your home, all indoor settings will now revert back to the 4 square metre rule across Greater Sydney only and the Blue Mountains and the Central Coast. This does not affect regional New South Wales at this stage, but it does affect Greater Sydney, the Central Coast and the Blue Mountains area. So until further notice, we revert back to the 4 square metre rule in all indoor settings apart from the family home, and we also have a cap on those settings at 300. This is so that if there is a seeding event, if there is someone who has the virus at any of these events, health doesn't have to scramble, you know, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. We know that there'll be a maximum of 300 at any part of a venue or any venue to make sure that health is able to get on top of the contact tracing. We know, for example, that the cases that have been the subject of the Avalon cluster essentially came from 2 events, a bowling club and an RSL club where there was activity. Now, in addition to those settings, we're also going back to no dancing apart from 20 in a wedding party for Greater Sydney, Blue Mountains and Central Coast, going back to no singing and no chanting, except for places of worship that were allowed up to 5 in those settings. So we've reverted back essentially to those settings. This is, again, to prevent there being any seeding events outside of the Northern Beaches cluster. As I mentioned yesterday, and as Dr Chant and the Minister mentioned yesterday, we do have people who didn't live on the Northern Beaches who came down to those events, who got the disease and went back home. And we're making sure that we do everything we can to stop them and their contacts creating any seeding events in communities outside the Northern Beaches cluster. Again, I'm grateful to the people of the Northern Beaches in particular, but also people of Greater Sydney who both anecdotally and evidence-based, I know that so many of you cancelled arrangements you had last night, have cancelled arrangements you had in the next few days, and we deeply appreciate this. If we continue to work together and we see things improve, obviously we'll be able to reassess these settings moving forward. I will confirm that the health experts and others will advise government Wednesday morning as to these settings and what we do post the current designated lockdown period. So on Wednesday morning or Wednesday during the day, I'll be able to communicate to the people of this state what the settings will be beyond midnight on Wednesday. And I'm hoping certainly that we see things improve, but there's no doubt that having an additional 30 cases in the community is a concern. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank Dr Chant, the health team and the contact tracers to be able to get on top of, since 8 p.m. last night, 30 new cases and confirm that 28 of them in their source, plus know that the other 2 are from the Northern Beaches, is an amazing job. To be able to do that in that amount of time just demonstrates the capability we have here and the people in whom we have our absolute trust and confidence. Again, I thank everybody for your patience. I think this is the last thing any of us wanted this time of the year. But as we know, we're in a pandemic and all of us have had to make changes. We're all in this together, and I have confidence we'll get through this so long as we all stick together and stick to the advice that's been provided.